my god, how cute is this top? I'm so excited. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Carla. Hello, you came at the perfect time. This is my first video of 2021. Woo! So I'm sure you guys have all seen the thumbnail. I know, I'm super excited. I mean, if you're not excited to make that top that Charli wore in that TikTok, then I don't even know what to tell you because it's so darn cute. I don't know who the designer is and where she got it from, but if you do, please comment it down below so I can properly credit the designer or the shop where she got it from in the description box at least. So I'll be making this top for my friend Lizzie, and she's practically my size, so I'm gonna go ahead and fit it for her. And yeah, let's start. Let's go. Okay, so first things first, as you can see, I changed into something more fitted to make this whole measurement process easier. If you have some strings laying around in your house, we're gonna need a couple of them because these will be our style lines for ourselves. This is a really fun trick to do to make the measurement process easier and more accurate. Ow. In case you have problems locating where your center front is, wearing a bra will help you, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and line up those knots to my center front and then place it how I want my top to look. So luckily for this top, we're not gonna have a back bodice, it's all just front bodice. So we're just gonna measure mostly from the side seam to the center front, okay? So for the center front, or the height of my bodice, I'm gonna go ahead and measure over the fullest part of my bust, which is there, and that's about 6 inches, so 6. Okay. Now we'll do the height of your side seam. So this is why I also prefer having a bra on, because I don't want the side seam to go all the way up to my armpit because that's not really comfortable, and I don't want the ruffles to be up there, right? We want the ruffles to end here. So I'm gonna just use my bra line as my guide. So I'm gonna have my side seam, I'm gonna measure from my bra line to here, so that's what, 3.5. Now we have the upper bust. So again, we want the ruffles to end right about here, again where my bra line is. I'm gonna measure from here to the center front. So 6 1/4. Now for the bust, we're gonna want to measure again the fullest part of our bust, so 9 inches, and that's it. Now we can cut. Let's go. Alright, so before we start, I just want to let you guys know that I actually also draped this on my size 2 dress form, just because I want to make sure that my numbers are correct and that I'm not giving you guys silly measurements. Okay, so first of all, I like to start by drawing my original center front. So let me write everything down here so we don't get confused. Alright, so our center front height is 6 inches. So, and then we have our upper bust, which is 6 1/4. You're gonna want to just square it down, which is 6 inches. And then for our lower bust, we're gonna use the same measurement as our bust, so 9 inches. Now we need our side seam height, which is 3.5, and then square it in. All right, so we are ruching the neck and the bottom part of the top, which means we're gonna need some volume across the bust. Right now, since it's just straight across, I'm gonna just go ahead and add about 1 inch from the center front. So in total, the width of our full bodice should then now be 2 inches more than the original bust measurement. So 9 + 1, so that's 10, times 2 would be 20. So if you were to open it up, you should have 20-inch wide top. Just add the 1 inch. So basically we're just shifting our new center front, but we're extending it out by 1 inch. So we're gonna be creating tunnels for our elastic to go through for the ruching. So I'm just gonna extend it up 1/2 inch with this line to remind me that this is just like a stitch. And then I'm adding another inch at the top for our ruffles. Okay, same thing on the bottom, half an inch first, okay, and then another inch. Now for my armhole, I'm gonna just place my French curve here, like so. And now I'm ready to add my seam allowance. So I just want to add 3 inches of seam allowance all around. I mean 3/8, sorry. Add 3/8 of seam allowance. Add 3/4 here. Although this is not really a seam allowance, it's just something that, you know, I like to fold. Here I like to mark, so these are just notches to remind myself not to sew this part of the top. We need to leave a small hole here to put the elastic through. So I just leave some notches so I don't forget. Depending on the width of your elastic, right now I have this one which is 3/4. I'm only gonna use half of it, so I'm gonna cut it in half and place it like so. So it should fit just fine in there. Just gonna label it. I always like to label my patterns. So I'm gonna name this the Charli top. This is a size 2, and I'm cutting 1 out of self fabric because it's cut on fold, and then 1 lining. Although for mine, I will be using the same fabric for myself and for my lining, but that's just for reference. And now I'm ready to cut the fabric.
Alright, so this part I totally skipped. I forgot to put my spaghetti loops on there, so please learn from my mistake, and I will definitely be fixing that later on.
So I'm practically just sewing around. It's almost like a pillow, and then flipping it inside out, except for the parts that I marked. So the 1/2 inch here will be 1/2 inch, and it goes up to the 2 inch mark. Maybe make this bigger.
And before flipping it inside out, I like to clip the seam allowance on the armhole just to create a smoother curve and release some tension. Once I'm done ironing, I then go ahead and start placing my markings for my tunnels, which should reflect our pattern. I then go ahead and pin my fabrics in place, especially because my fabric is quite slippery, and then I just top stitch along. And that's it. I know, immaculate, right? Just kidding, we still have to do it to the other side. Alright, if you look at the upper left hand corner of the screen, that's my elastic measurements. It's practically an inch smaller than the total width of our upper bust and bust measurements. After inserting my elastic into my tunnel, I just go ahead and secure it by pinning it on both ends. So my elastic turned out to be quite snug, so I had to like shimmy it in there. So if you ever encounter this kind of problem where you have a hard time pulling it out from the other end because of the seam allowance, you can also do this trick. Use the head of the pin to kind of like knead it inside, and that should help you out. Alright, so for my spaghetti strings, I went ahead and cut out 2 strips of fabric that measured 1 inch wide and 62 inches long. And then I folded it in half, right sides together, and sewed 1/4 inch of seam allowance. And then I flip it right side out with a loop turner. Alright, so this is the part where I finally realized that I'm missing my loops. So I am going to unsew the top corners of my side seams and attach my loops. And since I only really need 4 pieces of spaghetti loops, I just went ahead and sewed another one and cut it up into 4 pieces, each one measuring 1 3/4 inches. And then I'm folding it in half and inserting it into that small hole I created on the top corner of my side seam. And then I sew it back down and repeat the process onto the other side. So before attaching my spaghetti straps onto my top, I like to prep it by burning the ends of my elastic just for it not to unravel. And then I go ahead and insert the string about 1/2 inch in and then just stitch it in place. Also when I'm sewing, I am making sure that I'm catching both the strap and the elastic, and then do the same to the other side. Now for the bottom or undervest area, I'm pretty much repeating what I just did to the top, except instead of strings, I am inserting my 2 remaining loops. And again, making sure that when I sew, I am catching both the loop and the elastic. And then I just go ahead and edge stitch both of my side seams. Last but not the least, I'm just going to go ahead and lace it up and we're done. Woohoo!